Welcome to DevOps Accents, a podcast on everything around DevOps, public cloud, and cloud-native topics, with your hosts, Pablo, Leo, and Kirill.
Hello and welcome into another episode of DevOps Accents. Thanks for coming. And since you're already here, make sure to like, make sure to subscribe. And if this is not the first time you're listening to us, make sure to share this episode with people you love and your colleagues, things like that. We are MK Dev, where we provide DevOps, data, and AI consulting services and engineering services. We also host webinar and create courses where I'll talk about it here. And I will make sure to post a link to the in the description. Go check those, the webinar and video courses, and find the one you will be interested in. And as you know, we like to chat about all kinds of things related to the industry and related fields. But today, I think you should listen a little bit more carefully, because we want to talk about the professional skills of engineers and developers and what makes them good in the eyes of managers, teams, and companies in general. And for this purpose, we have invited Elin Brusberg to talk to us. Hi, Elin. Welcome to the DevOps Accents.
Hello, and thank you for having me. Very exciting.
Thank you for coming. Yeah. Let's see how it goes. So, Elin worked as a backend developer for many years with domains ranging from ERP systems to electronic health records. She also gives talks on software development and life in tech, as well as helping organize DevOps Days Norway conference as a chairperson. We've been sponsoring a few DevOps Days, and this is the events where a lot of knowledge is shared, a great atmosphere, great people, a lot of professionals. I totally recommend to visit them and to pay attention to DevOps Days. And for the last years, Elin, you've been focusing on managing developers, and now you work as a head of development at Vitec Megler. You are a head of development at a leading provider of standard software for real estate businesses in Norway, and you are a part of the Vitec Group, who deliver business critical software for a large variety of niches across Europe. And Ellen, before I will ask you how you ended up being where you currently are, managing developers in such a large structure, I wanted to ask you one very important for our DevOps Accents podcast question. What is your accent?
My accent? I don't even know what that is.
Your accent, I mean, in terms, I ask this question to all our guests, and it is interesting that different people answer differently depending on how they understand the question.
All right. Yeah, I don't really understand the question at all. So, is this like something that I should know about? Some very important DevOpsy technical thing that I'm looking very stupid not knowing, or
No.
Well, my accent, is it about how you talk, your English, or
yes,
no? Yes,
maybe no.
No, can be.
The funny thing that when I ask people, they some of them start telling about their expertise field, like where they feel more skilled in DevOps. Other people start saying about how they sound to other people with their accent, in voice, where the origin from, where they were born in. And it is always funny that different people perceive this question differently. And this is what makes it special for me.
I see. So accent could be like where your strength is, or where your
Absolutely
main interest lies. So sort of accent on the actual letter, I guess. Then
probably yes.
So more phonetically, yeah. Mm-hmm. Wow. So yeah, I mean, my interest is I really, really, really enjoy being very broad and general in life. I like doing lots of different things. People come to me and say, "What, you do that as well?" I'm like, "Yeah, I do whatever. I don't care. I do everything. I love everything." And when it comes to my accent in English, it's what it sounds like. I try to sound as though I don't really belong anywhere. I try to have a general accent so people can't say, "Oh, it's American, oh, it's English, oh, it's Swedish." I am Swedish, by the way, and I'm hopefully not very Swedish sounding, because that's terrible.
No, you cannot tell. You cannot tell.
Yeah.
All right. This is another accent in our collection of DevOps accents. That's how our podcast called. And Elin, tell us, how was your path branching out that led you to what you are doing now? Was it a choice, or did you just follow the flow?
It's like they say, don't they? Like, some are born into greatness and some are thrown into it, or whatever. I don't know if I'm still in greatness, but to the amount of greatness I'm in, I've been thrown into. I didn't really decide the first time that I wanted to manage a team, but I'm very happy now that I've made that change, and that I've gone from being a developer, even though I really, really miss it. I mean, you're never going to find somebody who's been a developer who doesn't miss it. But yeah, but it's very rewarding to meet people, to talk to people, and sort of maybe the answer. I mean, maybe the question you had before, what's your accent? Maybe that's one that I also try to find out with my employees. What are your strengths, and try to develop them. And it's very interesting doing that, I think.
This is interesting because this is not the first time we hear this notion here on the DevOps accent, when people said that they'd been actually thrown into a managing role, and and a lot of them miss the days when they were like developers. I kind of have a similar experience, but in a different industry. Pablo, you too, like, how do you compare your experience, like being someone managed, to when you manage someone else? Like, what do you think it's like? Do you share this idea that, oh, I miss being simpler?
Well, it is, how to say that, it's completely different when you manage or when someone is managing you, because let's think basically, when someone is managing you, you do what the other is telling you to do. So, and you can simplify your life, no? Because at the end, you need to do A, B, or C, or D. And even if you can be a selfish guy, you can say, okay, no, you only tell me that I have to do that. I did that, this is not my problem anymore. If you wanted me to do something else, you need to create a ticket or something like that. Oh, sorry, I have no time, no, I'm busy. When you manage people, is at the same time you need to do tasks as many other people, but you are on top of all the personalities and all the different humans, because it's not something that I said, but it's something that I hear many times. It's simple to work with my teams, but it's super difficult many times to work with humans, because everyone is different and everyone is doing different things, and it's something like, come on, please, it's crazy. So I don't know what is the best, but for me, I prefer to manage rather than to be managed by another person. But everyone has a different personalities, I think is like this, but it's not simple to be a manager.
I think it's interesting because already now you're saying things that we're meant to be discussing later. I mean, you're saying that it's okay as a developer to not care, and not take responsibility, and that's more or less the topic of today, isn't it? Because no, it isn't. I would argue. So maybe you should do the same work. If you're a manager, if you're a developer, you should still manage yourself, I would argue.
So you think this is a kind of, it's employees' responsibility to manage themselves rather than relying entirely on managers?
Yes and no, because I also think that it's a good manager's responsibility to make them able to do that, to help them do that, to give them whatever they need to be able to do that. So yes and no.
It's more like probably like creating the environment, because I know I've been reading some books on management before, and when we've been preparing to the podcast, you mentioned one concept, 10x developer or 10x engineer. And I've been looking up for that because I was unfamiliar with the concept. And then when I start reading about it, I realized that I know this concept, but I knew it's under a different name because I find from different language. And so this is kind of concept that many, from what I understand, many companies are chasing for. They seek it like a silver bullet to their success. Do you know like where this concept appeared, how it appeared, and why it became popular, and do you even agree with this?
I don't really know a lot about it, but I think that the origin is a long time ago. It was a research paper in 1968 by Sackman, Erickson, and Grant. And they weren't really out to investigate this. They were investigating all kinds of things, but they did some findings noticing that the worst developer and the best developer had a difference of 10 times. And I think many people, when they hear the expression 10 times developer, they are sort of hoping or expecting that the 10 or 10x developer would be 10 times better than the average, which is obviously, a dream.
Yeah, it's like I'm paying you a salary of a single.
But it's 10 times better than the worst one. And we all know that the worst one can be less than zero. So, I mean, it's like it's like making 10 times of -1, I would argue, in a way, for some people. So, so when you put it like that, it is much more doable. I mean, we do know people who are 10 times better than the worst developer we've met. And that already is a lot, if you think about it, because there are a few people who earn 10 times as much as the worst developer. So you could argue that maybe that would be a good idea. Me, myself, I don't think it's a good idea, maybe, but I think it's one of those be careful for what you wish for moments. I'm expecting the genie to come out and say, yeah, you can have a 10-time developer, but then all the other people, they won't know what to do. They're going to just ask this person instead of doing what they want to do or, taking responsibility themselves. And if that person leaves, what are you going to do then? So there's all kinds of really bad judgment going on if that's what you're looking for. So, but it's interesting. Just the idea that people are out there doing 10 times more than others, if that's a thing.
And the salary is 10 times.
Exactly. Probably not. So, and maybe it shouldn't be either for the aforementioned reasons.
I remember we've been working with a customer, and without getting too much into details, they've been relying too much on a single person with the infrastructure, with the environment, things like that. And then just as you said, when suddenly this developer, they have changed plans in their life and they decided to leave, and then, oh my God, what I'm going to do next? They're leaving. This is going to be a disaster. And then you try to find a replacement for this person, and you're looking for an exact the same person but different, and it's difficult because at one point you dug up a gem and you build your entire processes around this gem, but then you have to dig for more, and you find dirt, you find sand. I'm not telling people like dirt.
I would argue that it's really impossible because it's hard to find a gem, but I think it's even more hard or impossible to find one after you already had one, because then you're trying to, as you say, find the same one.
Yes.
And in your prejudice in doing that is going to hinder you from finding the new person that could be the same but in a different way, because you're looking for the same person again, and that person doesn't exist. I mean, we only have one person. We only have one of ourselves. We're all unique in more or less.
I was wondering about the origin of this concept, of this idea, and whether the organization of managers should think about it like at all. And I had a theory of how this concept appeared first, like because we all at some point of our journey we encountered people who can do more than they have to, and they do not do that because they are so much better than anyone else. They just probably they're more passionate, they're more curious, and they can create a very good working environment around them. And then you start perceiving them as a 10x, and then you think, yeah, this is something that needs to be done, and this is something that this is how it should work. And then you start looking for similar people, and then you start making some papers that, okay, there are people who can work 10 times as developers, and you should build your entire team around these people, and things like that. But it's not about, I don't know what it's about, honestly.
But I mean, it's interesting that you say that, because a 10-time delivery, is that 10 times the amount of code lines? I hope not. Is it 10 times the amount of functionality? Maybe. Or is it 10 times, and this would be even better, 10 times the actual functionality that you actually want in a good structured, well maintenance code? I mean, there's so many things that you have to think about here, and it's not just being able to just produce stuff, right? It has to be the right stuff at the right time, and maybe just having a good level of decision making yourself, being able to tell, this is what we should focus now. Do your own prioritizing. Maybe that's what a good developer is. Maybe that's more important than producing something, is producing the right thing at the right time.
Another very important part of this is the hiring process, right? Because how do you even build some recruitment process around aiming at these people? Like, what you should you focus on a single person who is able to deliver what you are looking for, thinking that they will deliver this amount, like from a single person, and then you have to find this kind of person, you have to pay this amount of salary to them, or maybe you should focus on creating a team of people who can work in as a team and create as the same impact for your business.
And in my mind, looking for one developer that's very good, that's more, it's old fashioned in a way. It's something we used to do before. We had these crazy people sitting alone somewhere just producing stuff, but now we're expected to work together. And I think the whole IT industry as a whole has woken up to the fact that we need to have functioning teams. We need to work on, on just doing everything right around the people. And so I think you're right there. I think it's more a matter of looking at team composition. And also, when you say to be able to recruit these people, I think it could be very dangerous to recruit these people as well for other reasons. And one is that they might not be happy about it. I've been trying to recruit a couple of times for new groups, new teams. And then you have this idea maybe that you want somebody who can be a team lead, who can be a tech lead, who can deliver and can do everything, so that he will be like a one-man team or a one-woman team, so to speak of. But if you manage to find this person, they will not stay, because they don't want to be alone in a team. They want to be surrounded by brilliant people like themselves, and learn from them and grow from them. And I mean, the curiosity, the know-how, and the social skills that we are looking for needs people in their own level. So that's another thing you have to think about. Maybe you should start with somebody who's really bad in a way, just to get it going. You can't start with the top people, because the top people might not want to be there.
Something important too is when you make an interview, because it's happened many times. You met a person. You can make a second interview and a third interview and a fourth. And you're meeting a person. But this character could be that it's not the same when he's in the office. It's not simple to discover all the the vertex of the personality of every person, because could be a 10x developer, could be a fantastic person working, but could be an horrible person later on working in a team, or a person who, because you cannot make all this kind of question, who doesn't like people from another countries. Imagine, to give a stupid example, and then you are in a multicultural environment, and then he is not okay there, and then you generate something like a chemical compound that explodes. There are so many things together that you don't know. That when you make an interview, really is when I interview people is I think in 2,000 questions to do. But at the end you cannot make all these kind of questions because even many of those are personal questions that you even are not allowed to do this question. That is, it's something that is common, but I know this is the key. Yeah, but you cannot ask this question because I don't want to have a problematic person, but at the same time I want to have the 10x as you says. But I want this person to be part of the team and many things.
I mean, this is a profession. This is something that we could talk about probably for years, but I do have some things that I like to do. And one thing that I like to do is to only have open questions. I don't want to give them the possibility to have a rehearsed, polished answer. I always give them open questions like, what do you enjoy about this? What does this mean for you, or whatever, just to make them talk as much as possible. Because when you talk, sooner or later, if you're lucky, that mask that you're talking about, that's going to fall and you're going to see the right person.
Interesting.
That's something I try to do. I don't always succeed.
Very good point.
Yeah, they slip up at one point, hopefully. And another thing that I like to do is to at least give them the possibility to make a good decision. So I try to tell them as clearly and as, I don't know, I try to tell them everything about us, and especially the bad points. Because then if they don't like foreigners, then I make a point maybe of telling them that we do have foreigners and you're going to be working with them. So giving people information can also be a way of themselves deciding not to come. So you can put that responsibility on them in a way, I think.
Very interesting.
Cool. So I like this point with the salary, because it's when you put the responsibility of the salary on the people. It's like what's happening in USA, because now these days in USA, many companies, they don't have a limit with the vacations. So then you can take 1 day, 20 or 200 days of vacations. So it's something like a free choice. But then you as a worker, you have the responsibility to take the amount of vacation days that you want to have.
I think you've misunderstood me now, because now I don't understand what you're talking about. What did you think I said now?
No. What I mean is that you are giving the responsibility to the people. So they have the responsibility. And what I mean is that I was explaining that
this translates to in other areas as well. This.
Exactly. There is another cases when the companies give the responsibility to the workers. And the good thing is that the workers, they don't take more vacation. For example, in USA, you are allowed to take whatever amount of vacation that you want to have now in these days in the companies, but it's working differently. So, what you can imagine that the people is going to take 3 months of vacations. They don't do that. They take even less days than before.
Do you think your project infrastructure is well set and maintained? We know for sure there is always room for improvement. If you are uncertain where to begin, let's first do an audit of what you already have. We will review your setup from every angle: performance, cost, security, high availability, and automation, and provide you with a detailed roadmap of which direction your infrastructure should go, generate concrete tasks for you to implement, or even take on your infra entirely, if you let us, of course.
Yeah, and this is like a nice point, because when you give people more freedom, and this is something that I wanted to discuss as well, like when you create them the environment where they can work better. I don't know how to put that. I remember there was like this study, especially like the most famous one probably is Google's Aristotle project, and research of psychological safety, something like that, showing that factors like removing workplace barriers that Pablo, you mentioned about this vacation time, or promoting learning, or ensuring job satisfaction lead to more engaging and productive teams. And that's probably because when people know that they do not have to worry about certain things, they work better. And this is like, let the developer and the engineer to take risks, and maybe even if they know that if they will take this risk, they have this environment that will not punish them for the failure, and they will be able to propose solution and admit these failures without fear. And this fosters creativity and probably problem solving environment. And without this, the productivity drops as people are making mistakes, and they just do them more because they fear of making mistakes, or they're not entirely sure that their management will back them up and they will not support on things like that. And this is more about like building a team culture. And I wanted to ask you, Elin, like, how do you, as a head of development, you have how you dealing with team composition? Do you take responsibilities of human relationship department on yourself, creating the team, thinking what is missing, who I need to add, where they perform better, things like that, like any kind of measurements, or like, do I create this puzzle where they fit, where they do not mix and match them?
Well, one thing that I try to do is to, I don't know, just to make sure that they have lots of different people. And I think that obviously is key, diversity. It's not just the different genders and the different age groups, but maybe the different upbringings, or there's diversity can be a lot of things. But I think it's about just making sure that you have lots of people with lots of different opinions and lots of different viewpoints, and also make sure that you empower them and that you give them the courage to speak their minds, obviously. And because there's no point having somebody with a different opinion from you if they're not allowed to voice it. That doesn't make any sense. So yeah, I don't really think that it has to be a lot more complicated than that in a way, because everybody can contribute in ways that you wouldn't really anticipate. I think it's very hard, as you said before, Pablo, knowing what people are going to be actually like when they show up. It is very hard. So you're just going to have to make sure that they at least are nice people, friendly people, helpful people, and people that other people wouldn't mind being around. They can be a little bit weird. They can be a little bit grumpy. That's fine. As long as they're, generally nice people who care about others, then I think it's going to be fine. I think it's going to be, whatever you throw at them, it's going to be fine.
I think people who listens to us, you should take notes on how to be a part of a great team and how to try to build one. But I have immediately I have another question. To what extent you can allow engineers and developers be helpful? Because there is a certain level of responsibility, and there is a certain level of expectation that I have for these developers. I have this I need you to do this, but at one point they might have any good intentions in doing something, but they do that without, for example, aligning this with the manager, with the team, or God forbid with the customer, right? So because there are some people who work in other teams, they work for the customers, and they have their goals. And a simple example, you have a team and they work on some project, and your company have a specific scope of work for this company that you need to do. And this developer with a very good intentions, he tries to do something more or something better. And at some point you need to pay for that. But this is something what was not agreed with your customer in the scope of work, in the service level agreement. How do you manage that? How do you restrain them? Do you even need to restrain them from doing something more?
I think you need to restrain them from doing something more, yes, but you can also channel it in a way. One thing that I've done a couple of times is to have sort of these innovation days or times when you can work on your own projects and you can do things that you want to do yourself. And I mean, as long as you have the ability to sometimes do the things you want, and as long as you can discuss it with your manager, and the manager sometimes let you do it, then I think that should be possibly good enough, because we can't really have people just running around and doing whatever, because that's not feasible for anybody, I think, at this point. I think the business is too serious and too big for that.
So are you saying like having a pet project when sometime, I mean, trying to implement something like that on a corporate level or a team level, even though it's not very important for the company, but it makes your developers busy, and like, because letting them pouring their excessive energy into something productive rather than something that will create disruptions for the company, for the projects they're working with. And when it comes to managing the business part, you need to have 100% control, but you're still letting them pouring their creativity in some pet project. Just let's do that, even though it's, I mean, even if it's not very important for the company, but it is recommended that they have something like this experiment, and let's do this, and the developers.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't go that far. I mean, obviously, they have to have a say in the official business as well. And if somebody comes to me and say, look, we really need to do this, then obviously that's fine, as long as there's some sort of control and some sort of prioritizing going on. And it could be that the answer is, yes, definitely, let's do that, but next month or next year, for example, because it could be yeah. And I think that's a problem that we have in our business, and it never goes away. It's this idea that everything has to be perfect and everything has to be really, really done before we deliver. And a lot of developers have it, a lot of product owners have it, even managers can have it. It's just this disease, I think, that we have, because everybody wants to deliver something perfect. And I think if I could change one thing, it would be this. It would be just get something out of the door and then just fix it later, because making it perfect just makes it delayed, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's like Kirill, one of our co-founders, likes to say, it's better done than perfect.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that too. But at the same time, you have to manage when you say, I already thinking about myself, like the things that I want to do. And I know many examples of the developers who wants to do something. And then when you as the manager say, even gently, you say no to that, or you need to be like, do not try to be as perfectionist as you're trying to be. Do you think that this developer will at some point will say that you do not have enough room for their creativity, or you do not let them their skill grow, or things like that? Like, maybe this is like ego management. I don't know, like, because we have our ambitions. I know I can do that. Why are you putting these borders on me when I know I can do this and I propose better things, something like that? But at the same time, this developer is good. How do you manage this? How do you let them grow above their current level at the same time without doing any damage to your project or the timing, and efficiency?
I think you have to look at what kind of jobs you're giving them, what kind of assignments, because if you give a person too many assignments that are boring in a row, then obviously, yes, I can understand that. And I try to always think about that and make sure that people either can pick their own assignments at their own level, or that I make sure that it's handed out in a fair fashion. And so that not one person, even though he's the best one, gets to do all the fun things, because that can be very, as you say, very demoralizing. And I understand that. At the same time, not everybody has the same dreams. I've known people who really, really liked just fixing bugs because they felt safe, they felt secure, they knew they could do this. And if you know what I mean, it's something you have to think about as well. And as long as you have an open and honest discussion about it, about their assignments and what they want to do and what I believe they are able to do, then I think it's possible to manage that.
Is it possible to balance this? So obviously, this person, they have their personal priorities, right? Like if you take this as an example, but you as a company, you have more goals for that, and I can imagine, like, when on one hand, I want to build a productive team where everybody is happy and they're doing things that they like to do, and this helps me create a good environment. On the other hand, I have my business tasks, business goals, and I'm looking into building a better team, more productive team in terms of increasing business value for the company, because our expenses are growing, our user base is growing, and we need to deliver more, better, faster, things like that. And so, what is the solution here? Should I push them out of their comfortable zone? Like, okay, you like fixing bugs, but what about creating something, some new functionalities, new features, rather than being focused on that? I know it's comfortable for you, but let's challenge. You do have to push people into new heights, rather than creating a soft and comfortable atmosphere.
Hmm. Yes, but well, again, people are different. Some people, they really like the challenge and they are easy to push. Some people might not want the challenge, and maybe they don't need to be pushed either, because, as I said, maybe there's room for people just doing one thing, as long as there are other people who does the other things. So it doesn't really have to be a problem, but I could recognize the problem that sometimes if you don't have any support from the product or the people designing, making the tasks for you, then you could end up with too many boring tasks in a row, so that you don't really have any way of making your developers happy. And maybe that's something that you have to think about as a company, that you need to have some fun things just to keep your developers, because it is hard to find good developers. And if it is an important part of keeping them is to have good tasks. So, I think it's a bit crazy. I don't think I've heard anybody say that before in a way, but I think it could be a good idea to think about that we need to have some things in our pipeline that are fun.
Like what?
Well, usually it's new development, isn't it? I mean, if you ask 10 developers, then at least 9 of them will say it's new development. And it's new technology. It's also very important for most people. And I'm saying again, you don't have to go crazy. You have to rein this in a way. But if you don't do anything that they enjoy doing, then eventually you're going to have a problem. Yeah.
Interesting. And we also discussed, touched a little bit the business part of the development. Do you think, because so far you sounded more like a team manager, head of development is like nursing the team and trying to them, okay, kids, behave. I will make sure you are entertained, you are happy, you are well educated. Or at some point, we need to let them understand that they are doing business for my company. And can we expect them to be like that? Because I have been encountering a number of engineers, a number of people who, whenever they tasked to do anything, they look at that with from a business perspective. Like, why am I doing this? What's the point of it? And like they look beyond a task. They try to look like a few steps ahead. Should we allow doing this? Should we allow this kind of behavior? Because at one point, okay, you are the developer, you are not the business manager. Don't manage my business, right? Do the job that you're tasked to do. Or we should listen to them carefully. How does it work? Or we should always be, or maybe we should always be reminded that it's the developers are assets.
Yeah, it's an interesting point, and I think it's hard to answer because people aren't perfect. Should we have perfect people? Yeah, we should have perfect people. How could we have perfect people? Well, we can't. First of all, as we said before, we're different, and even if, say, for example, that I was perfect, it could be argued. Then I'm just joking. Then obviously, even though I'm perfect, you're not going to find anybody exactly like me again. You're going to find somebody who's perfect maybe in a different way, and that's what you want as well. But for every positive, you have to have a negative to cancel it out. You can't be, you can't be self-assured without being also a bit annoying sometimes. You can't be,
Yes.
do you know what I mean? So in a way, you have to at one point say, this is something I would like to have in some people, and some people are not going to have it. But if you have a whole team where nobody thinks about how much things cost and nobody actually delivers, then obviously you're going to have a big problem. But how many do you need that thinks like that? I don't know. But I'm thinking again about the 10x developer, and this sort of feels like another level of that. Maybe the 10x developer is somebody who is also able to think like that, is also able to think about, this is something the customer needs, this is something that we need as a company to get money, and this is costing too much time and too much money now, so I have to cut back on this, even though it is fun. But it is, again, a lot to ask. All the things that you need from a person to be a good developer, it's a lot. So at one point you have to say, we're not going to get everything every time. We're going to get maybe 70, 80% of what we want. And then the rest is going to be covered by other people who cover it with a few of their 70, 80%. And then in the end, you're going to be okay.
Those who listens to us a lot, they know that Pablo likes to remind that the main goal of any company, whenever we discuss a company, their decision, whatever, their main goal is to make money. And we always have to check every decision that we make through a perspective that this company did that or did something else because they think that this will give them more money, create them more money. And I think this thing should be translated into building teams, right? When we hire more people, and I think this is usually a lot of people just forget about it. That people we are hiring, they are just as the same assets that generate us money, just as features that we developed, just as plans that are products that we are selling, and different tariffs, different plans, different marketing campaigns. They are aimed to generate money. But when we're building a team, we should also aim to generate money for the company where we are building that. And I think a lot of people just simply forget about it when we manage tasks, when we set, priorities. what I'm trying to say is, of course, when we set priorities, we aim because we need to deliver the product before this particular date. But at the same time, if we perceive our developers as assets, as resources that not just expendable, right? But they have their own resource. They have their own, ambitions, ideas, goals in their lives, and we need to manage them as well. Because if we not, we might lose this asset, or we might make this asset work differently. And this is, I'm trying to say, this is what usually is missing.
Yes, but if you think about it, then maybe as long as the key people have this skill, the people who decides, the the prioritizers. I don't know why I can't say it now.
I have the same issues with this word.
Yes, every time it's just worse. The people who prioritize, yes, they obviously need to have this. But does everybody need to have it? I don't think they do. And I think that this is a good example for maybe the kind of business acumen that you're looking for, that bit of ruthlessness, the bit of being really into money in general. I find, and I mean, I might be really, really terrible now, but I find that if you're like that kind of person, then maybe you're not as open-minded, maybe you're not as creative, maybe you're not as, you're going to lose some other things. You can't have one thing without losing another, and I think and maybe that's also something that we need to think about with this 10x developer. If you get all this, what are you losing? What are you not getting? So this whole idea of getting perfect people that can do a perfect job, we just need to forget about it. I mean, it's just not going to happen. And I think that's maybe my takeaway there. You don't need a perfect person because you're not in a perfect job. You don't have a perfect job for them anyway. You're not a perfect manager, maybe. So how can you find a perfect person and expect them to be happy with you, even if they existed? All you can do is make the best of what you have and make sure that the team composition is in a way so that it together has this output of productivity that you need.
You've been involved into hiring, Pablo, lately. People, do you agree with this notion, like that we have to maybe not look for perfect people, idea people, and I know, like, what would be the main, if we have to distill one single skill, what would it be that we should looking into in developers or in engineers to make sure that they will fit into whatever task we want them to do?
In my opinion, everything depends if you want to have a person for one specific task for 1 month, and then what you need to find is the best person. Or you want to have a person who is going to be in the company for years, but then in this case, you need to find a different team. So, everything depends of what you are looking. There is no perfect recipe to do something. Every case is different. So, because if you are looking a person to start to work in 7 hours, so you need to find the best guy. No, that's all. I don't care if he's, let's say, stupid or everything. I need a perfect guy because he needs to start to work tomorrow. So then, if he's a person who's going to be in the company for years, so it's different because you need to find a person who match with the company, match with what the company wants to have, match with the team, and match with many other things. Plus the knowledge, for sure. But the knowledge is something that the people can be trained. So at the end, they can have another different, similar knowledge, but you can train them in something similar.
Do you have your answer?
I had heard about a company in Japan where the only requirement they had was that they liked cats because they had lots of cats in the office.
Cool.
And I'm just saying, you don't really know what's important until you try it, right? I don't know if I'm going to make that a requirement just yet, but I do think it's not a bad requirement. I love cats myself. But I think dedication is a very important word, and I think being helpful is a very important word. I think if you're dedicated and helpful, then most probably we can make it work.
I like how the sound been helpful because it covers so many things that we discussed today in many aspects in terms of business needs, your skills, your team. And I think this is a great note to wrap up this discussion. And I let you, those who listens to us, to reflect on this. If you are being helpful to your team, to your company, and to the managers you're working with, or maybe even, not maybe, but of course, even for your closed ones, if you're helpful, let us know in the comments. Let us know in your replies to our bi-weekly dispatch newsletter that we share, and we share everything new to MKDev and to the things we learned in the industry around us. Make sure to be subscribed, and we're expecting your emails for us. What do you think about what is the most important skill for you, for your team? And we will discuss this in our next episode. For you, Elin, thanks for coming. Thanks for joining today. It was very insightful, very helpful for us.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. It was great. Good discussions.
Yes. And for those who wants to learn more about you, where they can find you on the web?
Well, I suppose you can always find me on LinkedIn. That's probably the best.
Okay, cool. I will make sure to have links in the descriptions. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Thanks for listening. See you in 2 weeks. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
The cloud tech industry is evolving so fast. Do you keep up with it by improving your skills or upskilling your team? At MKDev, we offer a variety of workshops for just that, from the basics to expert knowledge. Before delivering our workshops and training sessions, we carry out a detailed assessment of each participant. To make sure the workshop is helpful for you and your team, we will add more content to it or throw out what you already know. Or we create a custom workshop specifically for the needs of your team and the specifics of your project.